So welcome back to another video. Last time I kind of showed off some of my favorite piano plugins. So this time I thought I'd have a look at some of the synth sounds and the synth plugins that I use in my music. So synthesizers have kind of played a massive role in electronic music for me and how I kind of got started with that. So a lot of it kind of back in the day was in GarageBand on my parents' iPad. And then moving on, I managed to save up for a Mac and got GarageBand on there, and eventually Logic, and then later down the line Ableton as well, which is what I'm showing today. So we're running on Ableton Live 10, which was kind of a more recent purchase, upgrading from 9. So kind of kicking us off and to try and get through these as quickly as possible. So you can kind of see that I've called it 5 favorite synth plugins, but it's technically, I've kind of should rename it, and the video will be called favorite synth plugins because I couldn't just kind of pick 5. So to start, we've got this Babylon synth. So I managed to get this on quite a good deal on Plugin Boutique, which has been a really kind of helpful site and good for sales and kind of cheaper plugins down the line. So this is what it sounds like, and I've just kind of got a MIDI clip. So yeah, it's just got this super rich sound to it. In this video I'm not going to go too much into detail of what these synths do and why they're built the way they are and why they make the sounds that they do. I think I'm going to leave kind of that for in the description below and links to all of these, so you can kind of read up on them if you want to, if you're kind of boring and nerdy like me when it comes to synths. But yeah, I'm kind of looking at it as more of a aesthetic side of things, kind of how does the synth look, but more importantly, how does it sound? And I think this is arguably one of the better sounding synth plugins that I've had in recent years. There's kind of tons of options. There's so many factory presets, like it's kind of impossible not to be able to start with something inspiring. I guess you just have to find it, and then they've got a lot of kind of their own, I guess, factory settings as well, or yeah, just presets that they've come up with. And yeah, I love it. Some really cool sounds. Let's kind of go for a different one. Crying duck. I mean, it does sound like a crying duck. So anyway, so that's Babylon. That's probably my favorite one at the moment if I'm using a synth in one of my songs, and it's kind of the lead or a pluck or a bass. Moving on is FabFilter Twin 2. So I've had this probably longer than any of them, and it's just, yeah, brings back a lot of memories of starting synths, starting using synths in kind of Logic, and this is what it sounds like. I think this one for me is just so quirky, and it just has a very unique sound to it. It's got quite a nice selection of presets. I did used to have probably a dozen of sounds that I made and kind of presets that I made up, but when I got my new Mac, for some reason it didn't copy them over. But yeah, it's just great. It's great for kind of odd sounds, I guess, and FX. But yeah, you can't really go wrong with this. There's so many options, and the kind of capabilities within it are pretty amazing as well. It's maybe not the most user-friendly compared to some that I use, but I guess with any good synth there's going to be a kind of hint of working it out and trying to fine-tune it to the way that you work. And if kind of presets is your thing, then yeah, this is great for that. But I kind of like to get into the nitty-gritty of it all. So the next one on my list is probably my my most recent purchase, which is Izotope Iris, and I think this kind of UI is incredible, and it's very kind of Millennium Falcon, but I love it, and probably my favorite thing so far. I'll kind of show you how it sounds now, but I'll show you in a minute some of the capabilities with this window in particular. So yeah, another really kind of rich sounding synth. I believe this one's more sample based, so you can kind of load up samples here and you kind of loop, retrigger them. There's various options. Yeah, I think there's kind of endless possibilities with this one, but the thing that I've really enjoyed doing is this little window here. You can kind of reduce things like this, or yeah, kind of reduce the height as well and move it completely. But something I've enjoyed doing is kind of using this lasso. So I think if I just go back, you can kind of chop out little bits that you want, or you can kind of get, let's erase that. You can really get crazy with this. You can kind of do whatever you want, draw what you want, art class. So yeah, it's just something quite unique, and I've never kind of seen that in a plugin. Might have happened before, but for me it's a first. And yeah, even just doing like little blips like this, yeah. I just think there's so many opportunities and potentials of like crazy sounds. Moving on to the next one, this is Hybrid by, I think it's Air Music, yeah. I guess it's just another really good preset synth if you're kind of lacking inspiration and you need a sound that you kind of want to base one of your tracks off. It's really good to kind of load it up and kind of flick through the different presets, but I haven't really delved too deep into this. I think I got this one like 6 months ago and really haven't used it as much as I'd like to, but I guess I've been focusing more on organic or acoustic sounding instruments, but this is what it sounds like. So yeah, just another really nice sounding synth. I got this one on Plugin Boutique as well, and that was really cheap. I find with Air Technologies plugins that sound quality, for example on, I think there's one called Expand, which is a sample-based synthesizer, and some of the sounds are just a little bit, I guess, stock sounds. They're not anything special about them, but as I said, they're kind of really good for loading up tons of sounds, and you can just kind of pick something and think, okay, that's where I'd like to go with this, but I haven't got time to make something from scratch, so let's work with that and then move on to getting a bit more original later. So yeah, that's another kind of really good one that I like using. Sticking on the theme of presets, we've got SynthMaster Player. So there's, I think, 3 different types of SynthMaster plugin. So SynthMaster Player, and then there's SynthMaster One. I think I've got it here. So if we go to the manufacturers page, okay, so there's SynthMaster One, and then SynthMaster Player. So they're all fairly cheap. I think I got this one for like £10 or even cheaper, and then I think you can kind of cross grade between them, moving up. So I don't know if this one is actually £37. I think that's just it must be a pack or something, or a cross grade price. But yeah, the sound quality on these is fantastic, and I just kind of picked a random one because there's tons. This is what it sounds like. So So yeah, there's just tons of different options. Let's pick Through the Storm 1. That's kind of a bit trancey. But yeah, you can kind of just get lost in here, and it's another really good one for just picking up and finding a random sound if you just need a bit of inspiration. Not so good. Well, I'd say this one's the worst in terms of originality. You can't really do like creating sounds from scratch. It's kind of all presets. I think it's to kind of entice you into the sound of it and how great it sounds, and moving on to buying the kind of products further down the line. But yeah, it's a really good one to have just for that kind of easiness about it. So now we've got the Tyrrell N6. So I've probably had this one of the longest, along with the FabFilter Twin and another one I'll get onto in a minute. I believe I got this free, and I think it still is free. Checking their site, and it's just like I think it's probably the best looking plugin, just in terms of it just feels like you're messing with a hardware synth, and it doesn't sound too bad either. So yeah, I just love it. I think in terms of presets, it doesn't have many, which is actually quite a good thing, because it just means if you load it up and you want to just start something from scratch, you don't feel too overwhelmed. It's all fairly simple, it's all laid out nicely, and it just looks great. So yeah, I'd highly recommend that one if you haven't, and it's free, so that you've got nothing to lose. Moving on to the last two, probably two that I don't even know if I've ever used these on a track, but I thought I'd mention them. We've got the FabFilter One, so this is, I believe, their first synthesizer plugin, and it's probably the most simple layout out of any of them, but just sounds nice. It's quite like I guess a sweet tooth type of plugin. So yeah, it just sounds a bit like you've walked into a candy shop and all the sweets have started singing to you or something. It's a fun one. I wouldn't say I'd use it in many tracks, or if I did, it would be very subtle, or yeah, if I'm going for a super happy vibe, maybe I'll get to that. And then finally we've got Loom. So this is another Air technology one. And layout wise, I'll play it and you'll kind of see why it's quite a fun one to have anyway, even if you don't use it much. So you've got this kind of, I guess, I don't know what the word would be, graph to kind of show the signal, which looks cool, and for every sound you get that as well, and then usually you have this kind of morph axis grid, which you can kind of mess around with, but I don't think this one was turned on, but you have to assign it. So yeah, but a lot of them have it, and then there's this kind of really fun randomizer, which I like doing every now and then. So yeah, maybe not that. Maybe not using that. Well, it's really good for horror movies. I think that's what we can take away from those kind of last few random presets. So yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell my kind of favorite, I guess. How many is that? About 8? Yeah, 8 plugins. I have used a lot down the line. More kind of free ones, and I've had a few where they were kind of subscription based, but I kind of decided that it wasn't really worth the money I was spending to kind of keep those on board. So these are kind of the ones I would use now if creating a track. Also kind of shout out to this reverb that I've kind of been using from Valhalla. They're kind of someone I've discovered fairly recently, and without kind of spoilers, they will feature in my next video, which will probably be my last one in terms of favorite plugins, because there's only so many categories. But I think I'm going to be doing one based on reverb, delay, and any kind of other effects that I love using. And it's also a note that I'm kind of disregarding any plugins that are within Ableton or Logic already. So that's why you won't see any of those. Maybe that will be a different video one day. But I thought I'd just showcase some of these. So I'll see you next time, and thank you for watching.